Hi everyone. So the goal of this video is to understand the muscular system basics. You can see that there are a few learning targets at the bottom of the screen here. So I want you to be able to explain the functions of the muscular system, compare the three muscle types, and identify the layers of muscle. All right, so just a reminder before we start, for guided notes, it's good to find a spot in the classroom or wherever you are that you can focus. Make sure you have a copy of the guided notes, whether that's a digital version that's on the Google Classroom or a physical copy, and the use of headphones is strongly recommended. All right, so there are four major muscle system functions. So movement, obviously, posture, stabilizing joints, and generating heat. All right, and a few quick facts about the muscular system and muscles. So cells are elongated. When you look at the typical cell in a textbook, it's like this big blob and it's got all the different organelles in there, like the mitochondria and the nucleus and all that. The cells of your muscular system are elongated. They're like really long tubes, and I'll show you a picture of that in a few slides here. When we talk about a muscle fiber, that's the same thing as a muscle cell. So we often talk about how all our tissues are made of cells and muscle tissue is no different, but we often don't use the word muscle cell. We often just use the word muscle fiber. So just watch out for that. Fiber and cell are the same thing. Muscle makes up about half of your body mass, and then there are some common muscle roots that I want you to watch out for. All right, so there's MUS, so that'll show up in many different words. For example, muscle or muscular. Myo will show up quite often, like myosin. That is one of the key proteins in muscle that really make your muscles contract. We'll talk about that eventually. And then sarco shows up in a few different places, like sarcolemma, which is just a fancy way of talking about the cell membrane of a muscle fiber. All right, so there are three major muscle types. So there's skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. So skeletal muscle, that's the muscle that we typically think of. That's the muscle that will help you move and you move your arms and your legs and whatever. You have control over that. All right. Then there's your cardiac muscle. Your heart is mostly muscle, and it's really just like a big pump that is just squeezing like a muscle and pumping blood throughout our body. And then smooth muscle can be found in many different places. One place in particular is the digestive tract. So your stomach actually has a lot of muscle, and it's smooth muscle, and your stomach is able to contract and kind of move the food around. And then throughout your whole digestive system, actually, you have this smooth muscle system kind of pushing along the food so that your body can digest it. Smooth muscle can also be found in arteries. It kind of helps control the how wide an artery is. So it's found in many different places throughout your body. And then here is a chart that is kind of busy, but it has a really good breakdown of how all three muscle types are different. So you can see the skeletal muscle, it has fibers that are striated. Striated means that like when you look at it, you can see lines. So for example, when you look at this picture here, you can see that there are many different lines. There's like a purple and then red and purple and red and purple and red all the way down. All right, that's what striated means. It has like stripes. And then another word that is maybe not so easy is multinucleated. That means that it has multiple nuclei. All right, so when I look at a muscle fiber, all these little purple dots represent a nucleus, and there's many of them in just one muscle fiber. Voluntary means that we control whether or not that muscle works or not. All right. So you'll see how that's going to be a little bit different for smooth muscle and cardiac muscle. So smooth muscle is not striated. You don't see those lines on smooth muscle. And they are uninucleated. That means it only has one nucleus. Uni meaning one, kind of like a unicycle, right? One. All right, and then this is involuntary. You can't control smooth muscle. You can't really think about smooth muscle and control it. You can't think of your stomach and make it contract. And then cardiac muscle, uninucleated, again, one nucleus for every fiber. involuntary. You can't control your heartbeat. You can't control, you know, how it beats, which is kind of a good thing. It's good that we don't have to think about our heart beating. It just kind of does it on its own. All right, a few terms that are good to know. So you'll see that your muscle has a lot of blood supply. So you'll see many blood vessels, as it should. We need blood kind of flowing through our muscles. We have different layers of connective tissue. So epimysium wraps around the whole muscle. Epi usually means like above. Then you have a paramysium, and then you have an endomysium. All right, you can kind of see how these are in different places within the muscle. All right, endomysium is like on the smallest level in between the muscle fibers. You can see a muscle fiber or like a muscle cell. Again, muscle fiber and muscle cell, same thing. You can see what that looks like in this picture here. And then one important distinction here is that when we talk about muscle and how it connects to bone, that is through tendons. So muscles connect to bones with tendons. All right, and then this is just one final picture I'll show you. This is what a muscle fiber looks like. So it has an outer layer here, the sarcolemma, and then inside that, it's more of these fibers. But these fibers are even smaller, and they're called myofibrils. All right, we'll get down to the molecular stuff pretty soon, but maybe we'll just pause here. One thing I'll point out really quickly though is these stripes. So it's like purple and red, purple and red, purple and red. These are the striations that we saw earlier when we talked about how skeletal muscle has striations. All right, and then you can see the nuclei in this picture to kind of give you an idea of what kind of level we're dealing with here. All right, but those are some muscular system basics. And I'll give you a few practice questions to go along with this. So good luck with that.